In the news tonight, His Majesty the King reviews with visiting Egyptian Foreign Minister efforts to combat radical ideologies and terrorist groups that threaten the security of countries and peoples in the region. Leaders of France's mainstream parties, including the leaders of European countries, will take part in a unity march through the streets of Paris tomorrow to condemn the Charlie Hebdo shootings. And the kingdom will remain under the effect of the Arctic air blast until tomorrow night, and the Public Security Department renews warnings to citizens not to venture outdoors unless for absolute necessity. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah received here in Amman Egypt's Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri, who conveyed President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's wishes. His Majesty praised the close ties between Amman and Cairo, reiterating his full support to Egypt and its key role in the region. King Abdullah and Shukri reviewed efforts to combat radical ideologies and terrorist groups that threaten the security of countries and peoples in the region, calling for strengthened cooperation among all the parties concerned. The meeting also dealt with Mideast peace efforts and the need to relaunch Palestinian-Israeli negotiations, as well as the situation in Syria and Iraq, where Jordan and Egypt see eye to eye on the need for a political solution in Syria and supporting Iraqi efforts to confront terrorism. The meeting agreed to maintain strong coordination between Egypt and Jordan on issues of joint interest. Top on the agenda of the Council of Ministers meeting today was a briefing by President of the Jordan Investment Board, Muntasir al-Uqla, who pointed out the reasons behind the board's failure to fulfill its mandate and attract anticipated foreign investment in support of the national economy. Lack of an organizational structure, as well as fragmented or duplicated efforts, were some of the key setbacks facing the board, according to Uqla. The JIB was founded as a merger of three national bodies: the Investment Promotion, Developmental Zones and Export Promotion Boards. At present, JIB comprises 26 directorates and 50 departments with a bloated administration. Based on Uqla's briefing to the cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour, a number of decisions were taken to help overcome investment challenges and empower the board to play its role as the sole competent authority for investment matters. The one-stop window will be effectively activated to further facilitate procedures to foreign investors. In addition, foreign trade representation bureaus will be closed down, and their duties will be delegated to Jordanian embassies abroad, a measure that would save the Treasury some 6 million JDs per annum. The Prime Minister pledged the government's full support to the board so it can capitalize on His Majesty the King's efforts to promote Jordan as a world investment hub. The ministers and Prime Minister also listened to a brief by Interior Minister Hussein al-Majali on the government and armed forces mobilization and handling of the effects of the blizzard during the past days. Majali said the Prime Minister's decision to announce the closing of government institutions and halt education at schools across the kingdom was a favorable move that enabled the civil defense to work effectively to open roads and provide emergency assistance to citizens. He also voiced appreciation of the private sector and other volunteers that backed public efforts during the storm. Ministries and public institutions resume work tomorrow, but with a delayed start due to icy conditions in the early morning hours. The Prime Minister issued a circular stating that work tomorrow and Monday begins at 11 a.m. The circular excludes the Aqaba Governorate, where work hours remain unchanged. A similar circular to this effect was issued by the Central Bank Governor Ziad Fariz, applicable on employees of the Central Bank and other operational banks across the kingdom, and valid for tomorrow and as well as Monday. According to the Meteorology Department, Jordan will remain under the effect of the Arctic air blast until tomorrow night, bracing for continued snowfall, sub-zero temperatures and icy conditions. The Public Security Department today renewed warnings to citizens not to venture outdoors unless for absolute necessity, urging Jordanians and visitors to call 911 in the event of any distress or emergency. The department remains on maximum alert with all its personnel readily available to offer assistance, officials said. As of today, the PSD sounded an emergency alert system using sirens at sunset to signal a warning against icy conditions on the roads. These sirens not only warned citizens of risky driving on the roads, but were followed with awareness messages. Since the start of the blizzard on Wednesday, the PSD has dealt with over 2,300 cases where individuals were either involved in traffic accidents or stranded in their vehicles or needed some sort of assistance on the roads. Still enduring the aftermath of a 50-day war with Israel, the unprecedented cold weather, accompanied by snow and heavy rain, has caused floods in the streets of Rafah in the Gaza Strip, leading hundreds of people to leave their houses to escape the waters. A 2-month-old baby girl died yesterday as a result of the harsh conditions. Rescuers continued working to evacuate families in Rafah and Khan Yunis using small fishing boats to sail across the flooded streets. Some houses also caught fire as a result of electric shocks. Gaza lacks the proper equipment and vehicles to fight bad weather, unlike the West Bank, where snow plows and power crews were on high alert for the past 3 days. In Syria, 2 separate explosions caused by explosives-laden vehicles in Aleppo suburbs left at least 16 people killed. One of the explosions went off at a Nusra Front road block and the other at a block belonging to a Kurds protection unit. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the explosions took place near Masqan village. 2 Nusra Front fighters were killed in the explosions and the remaining victims were civilians. And an explosion this evening in the city of Tripoli, north of Lebanon, has killed at least 7 people and wounded others. While several local television stations called the explosion a suicide attack, Lebanese officials said the cause was not immediately clear. The explosion struck the predominantly Alawite neighborhood of Jabal Muhsin. Head of the Arab League called on the French embassy in Cairo to sign the Book of Condolences for the victims of the attack in Paris. Nabil Al-Arabi met the French chargé d'affaires and expressed his condolences, saying the attack was against all monotheistic religions. Al-Arabi said the attack was an absolute crime that must be seriously condemned. And in the West Bank city of Hebron, a group of Palestinians held a protest against the gun attacks in Paris, organized by the Hebron France Association for Cultural Exchanges. Head of the organization, Anwar Abu Aisha, said the aim was to stand alongside the French people who usually stand by the Palestinians and to voice rejection of acts that violate the freedom of speech. Hamas also condemned the attack on Charlie Hebdo that left 12 people dead. In a statement, Hamas said its position on the recent events in Paris is in harmony with the statement issued by the International Association of Muslim Scholars denouncing the attack. Any difference in opinion or ideology is no justification for the killing of innocent people, the Hamas statement added. It went on to also denounce what it described as pathetic attempts by the Israeli leadership to associate the movement and its resistance with the acts of terrorism worldwide. The French government held an emergency meeting this morning at the Élysée Palace to discuss 3 days of violence, during which 12 people died at an attack against French satirical newspaper Charlie Hebdo, and 2 sieges ended in blood. The violence raised questions about surveillance of radicals, far-right politics, religion and censorship in a land struggling to integrate parts of its 5 million strong Muslim community. The French Interior Minister yesterday said the government has been taking actions for many months, citing a new terror law and the reorganization of the management of the security of the territory. More on the investigation into the events in this report.
As French ministers arrive for a crisis meeting at Élysée Palace, black ribbons speak of a nation mourning 17 victims of the violence that began with the bloody Charlie Hebdo attack. This, the morning after simultaneous standoffs with police ended with a gunman and 4 hostages dead at a supermarket. And the two Kouachi brothers wanted for Wednesday's attack on the satirical newspaper, also dead at a printing shop northeast of Paris. Before his death, Sharif Kouachi told the television station he received financing from an Al-Qaeda preacher.
Nous, on te dit juste qu'on est les défenseurs du prophète sallallahu alayhi wa sallam et que j'ai été envoyé, moi, Sharif Kouachi, par Al-Qaïda du Yémen. Et que je suis parti là-bas et que c'est Sheikh Anwar Al-Awlaqi qui m'a financé. Rahimahullah.
In an audio recording posted online, a man purporting to be an Al-Qaeda leader in Yemen says the Charlie Hebdo attack was prompted by insults to prophets.
لقد أساء بعض أبناء فرنسا الأدب مع أنبياء الله فثار إليهم نفر من جند الله المؤمنين.
The speaker stopped short of claiming responsibility for the attacks. As the nation struggles to come to terms with one of the worst security threats in decades, they're also attempting to diffuse anti-Islamic sentiment.
Since Wednesday and after the gunmen were held at bay in two sieges, 17 people have been killed along with the 3 hostage takers who were shot dead by police. The simultaneous standoffs northeast of Paris and at the supermarket in the capital reached a violent end yesterday as police stormed the 2 locations. Meanwhile, leaders from across Europe are expected to join thousands of Parisians in a unity march through the streets of the capital tomorrow to condemn the Charlie Hebdo shootings. At the invitation of French President François Hollande, they will be joined at the rally by leaders from across Europe, including the British Prime Minister and the German Chancellor. Organizers expect hundreds of thousands to attend the march, which will begin at Paris's Place de la République and will travel through the east of the capital to the Place de la Nation. Several rallies were held today across France with hundreds of thousands marching in the streets of various cities to remember the victims of the deadly attack. To the United States, where 3 days of bitter cold and snow have gripped the U.S. Midwest and the East Coast as a massive Arctic air has moved in, causing snowflakes as far as South Florida. Western New York got hit by lake effect with 0.9 meters to 1.5 meters of snow. The snow is part of a system that caused icy conditions and low visibility in Michigan. Bitter cold temperatures below average even for this time of year are expected to linger through till after the weekend.
They made me do it. Yeah, well.
Though not the time for ice cream, but in China, large crowds of residents of the city of Qingyang are converging on a shopping mall where a cute robot salesgirl prepares ice cream. The robot is installed in a transparent vending machine where customers can see her preparing their orders. She can make 6 flavors for customers to choose from with toppings. The robot operates in a highly accurate way, controlled by infrared rays, and all the joints above her waist are rotary. Too cold to think of ice cream. To London and the world of fashion. London Collections Men kicked off its 6th season with Top Man, known for its heritage in tailor-making and youth culture. Queues for the shows were long, with huge numbers outside the opening catwalk show. The catwalk show had the theme Bombay City Rollers, where models walked down the runway to 70s music in denim jumpsuits, mohair coats, shearling jackets, and stars and stripes. London has long been at the forefront of men's fashion, mainly because of the existence of tailoring street Savile Row, which has suited and booted the rich and famous for centuries. London Collections Men runs 2 more days until the 12th. A defiant Luis Enrique said he still has the support of the dressing room at Barcelona. The Barca coach has come under increasing scrutiny in recent days after it was rumored he had fallen out with Lionel Messi. His position wasn't helped after Barcelona lost 1-0 to Real Sociedad, a match which saw Messi relegated to the bench. Enrique's future could hinge on whether he can patch up his differences with Messi, who is said to have been unhappy about the decision to leave him out at Sociedad. A day later, Messi failed to attend a training session open to the public and a festive hospital visit to see sick children due to illness, and also started following Chelsea on social media, fueling rumors over his future. Barca are second in La Liga, 4 points behind Real Madrid, who today beat Espanyol 3-0. Michael Kingsbury won the FIS World Cup Moguls event in Utah's Deer Valley. The Canadian score of 90.25 was the highest ever under the new system where competitors can get a maximum of 100 points. In second place came Matt Graham of Australia, followed by Patrick Deneen of the US. Kingsbury is first in the World Cup standings, ahead of Japan's Sho Endo and Felipe Marquez of Canada. And in the women's event, Casey Oakley delivered the first World Cup win of her career as she held off Canada's Dufour-Lapointe sisters. Oakley's final run of 82.53 was enough to give her victory over Justine Dufour-Lapointe in second and Chloe Dufour-Lapointe in third. The American is now fourth in the overall standings. And finally, frigid temperatures prevail tonight with heavy rain and snowfall, accompanied by hail and thunder, especially over hilly areas. Winds will be southwesterly moderate to westerly brisk. Tomorrow, similar conditions continue throughout the day in most regions, with icy conditions expected in the early morning hours and late afternoon, including in the Jordan Valley. On Monday, there will be a slight rise in temperatures as the effect of the Arctic air mass begins to subside but continues to create unstable conditions. The Meteorology Department cautions against icy roads tonight and tomorrow morning due to sub-zero temperatures. Traffic on the roads is not recommended before 10 a.m. and caution is also advised against low visibility and flash floods in low-lying areas due to fog as well as heavy rain. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, his reminder of the day's top stories. His Majesty the King reviews with visiting Egyptian Foreign Minister efforts to combat radical ideologies and terrorist groups that threaten the security of countries and peoples in the region. Leaders of France's mainstream parties, including the leaders of European countries, will take part in a unity march through the streets of Paris tomorrow to condemn the Charlie Hebdo shootings. And the kingdom will remain under the effect of the Arctic air blast until tomorrow night, and the Public Security Department renews warnings to citizens not to venture outdoors unless for absolute necessity. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tupan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay home. Good night.